This episode is brought to you by the War for the Tower podcast. Jeff says, "We tell you all the time that you should listen to War for the Tower, so do it already. Check it out. We got a princess with a hairpin that turns into a sword. We got a flying drow elf lady with freaky mind powers. We've got a friendly maintenance robot, many other functions. Gunslingers, monkey men, and wizards, oh my! It's the War for the Tower, an actual play, and it totally fucking rules. Check them out at warforthetower.com or search War for the Tower on your pod." This is an Unspoiled Network podcast. This is Unspoiled, covering Doctor Who, Season 6, Episode 2, Day of the Moon. In this episode, these fucking aliens, man, they get scarier and scarier. And even though, allegedly, we've kind of won by the end of this episode, I don't feel like we've won. They're still all here. They are unnerving. Welcome to Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
And I'm Jamie. So now you know what they're called, too. I couldn't say it last time.
Right. That must have been really hard. Did you catch yourself starting to say it a bunch of times and then you had to be like, fuck?
No, I'm good at this. I've gotten a lot better at catching myself or like not even getting to where I need to catch myself, but just to double check because I watched these back to back originally. Mm-hmm. I went through and made sure that they never do say what they're called.
I also have gotten pretty good at being the spoiled one, but nevertheless, there have been a few times where I have almost blurted some shit out and then been like, oh my God, I can't believe I just nearly said that. So nevertheless, it can happen and I want to understand. But yeah, they are the silence.
The silence. And I knew when you weren't mentioning that they must not have said it. Mm-hmm. So that was like a better indication because calling them that is not something you're going to forget. Mm-hmm. You might have forgotten how often it was sort of mentioned in the previous season until this episode when the Doctor starts thinking back to it.
Yeah, I guess I did. It wasn't so much that I remembered that the silence was mentioned specifically. It was that I remembered there was something that had been a threat that wasn't finished yet. That the crack in the wall, it wasn't like, okay, we've dealt with that and all of that is done. There was still something else, but I didn't really remember what it was.
Well, and it's kind of innocuous because the phrase "silence will fall" is pretty common.
Yeah. And of course, when you hear them say "and silence will fall," what that sounds like is we're going to annihilate every living thing in the universe.
Right.
That doesn't sound like a specific group that is called this is going to like fucking take over. I mean, that's sort of assumed. And the silence will be the byproduct of that. But, yeah, so I didn't remember it specifically, but I knew that there was still a thing out there. But is this resolved is my question because, and like, I recognize that you probably just can't answer that. But the whole last season and people talking about silence will fall. And then it seems like the Doctor pretty much like manages this episode. And I can't imagine that's really the end of it. That everybody's been threatening the silence will fall. And then he like has just a 1-2-parter at the very beginning of a new season, I might add. And all of a sudden the silence is no longer a threat at all. I don't really see that. And it may be, I may just be wrong about it. It might be that it didn't get resolved last season and he realized that and was like, ooh, shit, we got to wrap that up, actually. I forgot about the silence thing. But, you know, I don't know.
I'm suspecting that the answer to that is no. He did not forget. Because it was mentioned in the last season of the last episode of the season.
Gotcha.
So, whether or not this is the end, and seemingly is, but maybe this is just a weird, like, narrative trick that Stephen Moffat is using, like, building something up and then being like, and it's done.
Yeah. All right.
Because there is another mystery that's now being introduced.
Mm-hmm. True.
So.
Yeah. What is all right. Well, I'm getting ahead of us. All right. This episode starts off 3 months later. Is it?
Yeah.
It is a real jump that I didn't expect. I'm always a fan of this sort of thing. Like, it can be done really badly, of course, but I think it's interesting to, especially with a show like this that doesn't tend to do like a long drawn out storyline. Often they do like the occasional 2-parter, but doing a jump ahead in a lot of episodes is not going to matter the same way, you know? And because we have this thing starting off with the doctor dying and everything, it's feeling like doing these kinds of time jumps are just going to be sort of necessary for a lot of things to work out within the time frame that we're working in to begin with. And it's Amy running. She's in the Garden of the Gods, which I have visited, actually. They are saying that it's in Utah, and I guess it must span a couple states, because when I went to it, it was in Colorado.
So it's probably somewhere near the Four Corners.
Yeah. But it is like watching her fleeing. I was just kind of like, I don't know what to make of this. Like, is she, who is she running from? Why is she running from them? And then we see that it's, Canton, who has supposedly been on her side, and he's over here talking about how he's going to shoot her and put her in a body bag. And I was just like, Canton, what are you doing? You're supposed to be on her side. And he shoots her and she goes
Government
down,
officials, am I right?
Right? And when she goes down, I just like assumed, all right, well, we're going to like go back in time or something and fix this. I did not think that he had faked shooting her, which it turns out is what's actually going on here. I don't know if it was like a blank. What does he say later exactly how he did this?
No, they never really, because they shoot Rory too.
Right. I'm assuming
they never really explain it.
There was like a sedative or something, you know, I figure. But,
well, he's got all these other people with him, so there must have, obviously there was a plan in place. They're making this look like these people are on the run.
Right.
So that he can gather them all up and get them in the same place, locked in this cage that they put the doctor in that nobody can hear inside of. I would imagine to make it look real, there was probably like blood packs involved and things. We just don't. It's not that kind of show. The show doesn't show blood, so.
Right. Yeah, so we cut from that and her going down to the location of where the prison is going to be. And the doctor is shown a picture of her arm, which is covered in hash marks. Are those hash marks?
Yeah.
They still are, right? Okay. Hashtag is a different thing. And it's clear this means something to both of them, but we both do not know what this is yet. Or by we both, I meant you and me, but obviously I'm lying. You knew.
I didn't the first time I watched it.
That's fair. And then we have the scene with River where she's wearing this like green evening gown.
She's always so fancy.
Do we find out what she was doing wearing this outfit?
No. She's just out there being River.
She's got this outfit on, and she's, like, covered in the marks as well. And she seems to be looking at them like she doesn't quite know what that means. And she's marking herself as she looks at them. So then you start to realize, oh, that's what it is. And that makes sense as well. Why they kind of have to like remember what the hell these are doing on them every single time that they do this, which is just, that is a lot of labor. That is a lot of mental labor to constantly have to be like, it's like Memento over and over again. So they corner her. She's at the edge of this like open window in a construction area. They tell her that she has nowhere to go. And she's like, fuck you. There's always somewhere to go. And then she lets herself fall backward out of the window. And
which we've seen her do something like this before. Right.
And as soon as she did it, I was like, all right, I guess they're going to come and pick her up. But of course, you know, Canton, whose name I literally will never remember without trying. I swear to God, I just have to like take a moment every time and be like, can. It's got a can in it. And then put it together. I don't know why I can't remember his name. But he doesn't know about, you know, and I think that did he let them in on the plan before he started to go after? Did they know he was going to approach them?
I think this was a plan they devised together.
Okay.
All of them.
But he doesn't know.
He doesn't know what
she's doing right here.
Yeah.
Does he? Okay.
No, he doesn't know until later when he says to the doctor she jumped off the side of a skyscraper. Mm-hmm. And the doctor's like, oh, yeah.
I feel like that's really rude to do. Like, just let him put you in the body bag, girl. It's fine.
Well, also, like, you didn't go and look over the side of the window and, like, see where she landed?
He does look over the side. But
he does?
Yeah, but she's falling, and the camera cuts away.
Right.
Before...
So we don't see him see her get snatched up by the TARDIS.
No, and I'm assuming that he did see.
You would think.
It's not, we don't get to find out if he did see or not. He says to the doctor that she jumped off the side of a building in such a way as to make it sound like he didn't see her get caught.
Right.
So
that's why I thought that he like didn't really watch her fall all the way down.
Yeah.
But then you get to the floor, like you go to the ground level and like, where's the body?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, she's in the building with the prison and he like just sends somebody else to go and they get caught up in whatever it is they're doing within the building while this other person is like, that's weird. I can't find a body. Do you know what I mean? Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. They don't explain it. Like, there's no way the audience even believe like, oh my God, River just jumped off the side of a building.
Yeah,
and
she's
that's
not doing
it.
That.
But this is all deception to the audience.
Right.
So.
And then we get poor Rory. I could not handle this episode, you guys. I thought what Rory thought, and I was about to fucking pop. I was like, are we really gonna do this? Are we really going to... Oh, you fucks. I was so mad. Y'all don't even know. And the relief, and I really think that when you fell from the sky, it's a figure of speech. Mm-mm. That's not really a figure of speech. Nobody really says that. Like, you say that when there's like a sudden sort of Deus Ex Machina solution to a problem. But she knew Rory. Like, it wasn't like he suddenly showed up in her life and we like saw that happen. Rory was a part of things with her from before we got to know her as an adult anyway.
Yeah.
So it's weird that they are, you know, trying to act like that's a thing. I mean, I get that they're trying to fool us all and everything, and that's fine. But also...
Yeah, I hope that this is the end of it.
Right.
Because, like, I hope that this is the last time we're going to make it seem like Amy is talking about the doctor and not about Rory.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's really tired.
It's tired.
It's very manipulative towards the audience, which is a trope that showrunners and writers tend to do that I don't appreciate.
Yeah.
Like, all of this setup at the beginning is also manipulative towards the audience, but it's also indicative of, like, a heist, which I love a good heist. I'm fine with it. They're just trying to make us think, like, we're questioning, and then we see the plan come together, and we're like, oh, okay. This was all, they're out there doing recon.
Right.
They've got the doctor captured and whatever. But emotional manipulation is worse than, like, strange plot manipulation.
Yeah, and I find manipulation that relies solely on dialogue is really weak sauce. If you've got manipulation that you are achieving through changes in the plot, actions, weird circumstantial stuff that people are going to draw a certain conclusion, and you are taking advantage of the fact that they're going to do that, I feel like you're putting more work into it, and I can respect that more. But when you are just having a character say a thing and being misunderstood, that feels really, really lazy. And when we've had Rory so many times feel so insecure, and for reasons, it's not just like, oh, Rory, he's so insecure and he needs to fucking get a grip. It's like, no, everything that she has done has really fed into this. And so his insecurity does not seem cute and funny to me. It seems cruel and sad and unnecessary, and really, like, the man has married her and he still thinks that maybe she's not in love with him. He's like listening to a conversation about her maybe being pregnant, thinking that she's about to say that it's the doctor's baby. Like,
yeah,
this is not sweet or fun or a hijink. This is just kind of like mean-spirited at this point. Like, just don't do this.
Is hijink the singular of hijinks?
It is now. That is how I plan to use it, and nobody can tell me different. So there's that.
Hijink.
Hijink. It's a jink that is very high. What's that now?
I'm sad to say hijinks seems to be the only version of that.
I disagree. Respectfully.
Dictionary.com, that's what it's telling me.
They have no authority over me.
Merriam-Webster, that's what it's also saying.
Listen, Merriam. I don't know who you think you are, but go spin your webs somewhere else. Am I right? Get it?
It's all right. My best friend and I one time really tried to make chalantly a word instead of nonchalantly. I just did it chalantly, which means you do it with, like, passion.
Oh my God. I feel like I'm stuck in 10 Things I Hate About You. Can you just be whelmed? I think you can in Europe.
We were talking about stupid stuff in language, and somehow that came up. Like, there's nonchalant, but there's no just chalant. And I was like, let's just act chalantly. And we know it's not a word. It was just really funny.
Oh my God. I like it a lot because it makes me realize how weird chalant is.
Yeah.
Like, now you've got me really curious about the etymology of nonchalant. All right. You know what, kids? I'm about to do some research here.
I'm sure it came from the French.
I mean, it sounds like it. Nonchalant origin. Mid-18th century, from French, literally not being concerned, from the verb nonchaloir. Chaloir? Chaloir. Nonchalant. That's how I imagine French sounds when I am not actually hearing it. To disregard, somebody else, Merriam-Webster is giving a very different response, though. They say it's derived from the old French verb nonchaloir, to disregard, and can be traced back to, back to Latin, not and calere, meaning to be warm. Unconcerned is one synonym of nonchalant, along with casual, complacent, and insouciant.
Insouciant is a good word.
Yeah, I did. So it's like not warm because warm represents passion. So opposite of passion. They did it very coolly, in other words, which is actually kind of a synonym for nonchalant.
Yep.
Ew. Well, we all learned something today, I hope. Some etymologist is listening to this going, you guys suck at this.
If you Google that, underneath there's people who ask, or people also ask, and one of them is chalant a word?
I'm delighted that this is the stuff people think of.
It is not.
Words are wild, y'all.
Yeah.
In summary.
I was watching something where they were like, that's a made-up word, and the other character's like, all words are made up.
You know what? The first time somebody said that shit to me, it was not that long ago when I said something about word being made up, and I was like, fucking, you could have knocked me over. I was just like, I don't, yeah, but, and then it was a few weeks later where I saw that meme where somebody has used like internet speak to do that scene, like, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn, but they did it in like TBH IDEK. To be honest, I don't even care. Or I don't IDEC, I guess. Something like that. And I was like, I can't believe that we've gotten to this point that you can just type the like initials of words, and I know what you're saying. Like, it's so strange. And then I had to just reevaluate everything about how I feel about grammar and language, which honestly is hard because I know that it's like rooted in a lot of classism and everything, but it's like, it's hard. Yeah. I have a very knee-jerk reaction to things like being misspelled, and, you know, purposeful misspelling is different. We're doing a thing. But when people just get the wrong theirs, I mean, I can't handle it, guys. I can't.
That's like second grade English, though. So there's no, I don't understand how you can get to adulthood and still not get it.
That's the thing, though. It's like a classist thing because it is second grade English. But if you had good teachers and a good educational system, it feels like you should just know it. If you grew up somewhere that your educational system was garbage, you're not going to, like, shit is not going to sink in the same way. You are not going to be given the attention you need. It's just not going.
Well, I'm going to say something mean. It's not intended to be mean about my mom. My mom had a really good education. She still messes up those words. I don't know why. She went to college. I don't know why. She does, though. She messes up theirs. And I have to refrain from correcting her every time.
My mom is a really terrible speller, so I feel you on that. And yeah, it's the kind of thing that for me, I think that what I lately have been trying to keep in mind is that I had a pretty decent education, and if you try to give me like math right now, God help me, it just doesn't stick in my brain. Yeah. And it's just not how my brain works. And other people have different strengths. And this is not a priority for their brain. Now, to me, that doesn't make any sense because this is stuff you have to use all the time. So I don't get that. But everybody just thinks differently. And it's just, I try to be cooler about it. It's just hard because I am such a snob. I really am.
I've had the same struggle, and I've also had to recognize that, like, I too am very bad at math.
Mm-hmm.
It does not come easily to me at all. Regular basic, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, I can do it. I can do it better with a calculator.
Mm-hmm.
I have to think really hard when I don't have a calculator for when the numbers are bigger.
Yeah.
But English and grammar and spelling has always come very, very easily to me.
Yeah, same.
I rarely spell things wrong. And generally, if I know how to spell it, my grandpa used to say, if you can say it, you can spell it, which is not true because the English language is weird. Bit. But it was a way for him to like help me along in if I was struggling with spelling something, I would sound it out. And also, I guess I was smart enough to know like that doesn't look right, and figure out the right way. But it's not hard for me. So I've had to learn patience with people. That, like, not everybody can just read a word once and know how to spell it.
Yeah. Yep. Similarly, like, there are things that people have only ever heard. Like, when you say the one that I get really frustrated on is, oh man, it was just in the Crazy Ex-Girlfriend episode I was watching. It's like basically the same idea as, supposedly. It's not supposedly, but that's a similar thing where it's like, if people only ever heard it, you could see them just kind of not quite catching it and not hearing, especially if people around them are saying it incorrectly, which is often a big factor. But yeah, there's, I know. Intensive purposes instead of for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
And yeah, things like that I'm just like, don't you think about what that phrase is really supposed to mean? For all intents and purposes is obviously you saying, well, for what we're trying to do here. So to me, it just makes sense that intents and purposes. Intensive purposes is just such a weird, like, we're doing something really hard right now, I guess, is what somebody thinks they're saying. So yeah, that's the, like, but again, people don't really a lot of times stop to think about the words they're using and why they would pick those words over other words. So it's just, again, people think different. I'm trying. I'm better. I recognize my classism, but it's just a really difficult thing for me to not mock, which is not a great place to be as a person. I don't want to be that person, is what I'm saying. But I am, and I'm trying to not.
Look, all we can do is learn and grow. Try to be better.
Exactly. All right. Oh my God, I forgot to mention the fucking doctor has a beard.
Yes, he does.
I am into it. Just saying.
Such a scraggly beard.
It is, but it's got like the effect of sort of calming down the crazy squareness of his face. Like, honestly, initially when Amy is talking and she says your stupid face, I really was like, oh, it is the doctor. And I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to be a dick. I genuinely was like, I mean, you know, Rory isn't like the hottest dude, but I really do think objectively the doctor has a stupider face than Rory does. I feel like that's just, you know. So this beard, he's just got this such a big chin, big square chin, lantern jawed, except not in the way that people think when you say that.
Not in the Gaston way.
Yeah. So I feel like this beards are weird this way because this is like, guys talk about women using makeup being a lie, but beards are a little bit of a lie.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can just hide the fact that you have no chin at all and grow your beard out and shape it so that it looks like there's a chin under there. And there ain't no chin under there at all.
Where was it I read recently? Someone said that beards are the push-up bras for men.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you can do this where you grow it to kind of cover up how giant your chin is. And it just looks like beard, even though it's not. That's all actually face. And probably if he were clean shaven and you went over his face with a sponge of dark paint, you could make it look like he had a beard on just his face with paint. But anyway, I'm just saying I feel like this sort of does a nice like balancing thing with the extremity of his bone structure.
He does have a strange face. I said, like, when they cast him, I was like, well, yeah, he looks like an alien.
Mm-hmm. He do. And I'm not mad. It's fine. It's just, I find it really weird when you tell me, like, so many chicks were into him, you know? I'm like, oh, okay.
I mean, I don't understand that either, because I can look at him and be like, yeah, he's got an appeal, but that's not the appeal.
Right.
It's not a sex appeal. He's got a presence. He belongs on screen. Matt Smith objectively has screen presence. Mm-hmm. And he also is a very good actor, so I enjoy watching him. But do I think he's hot? No. Have I ever? No.
Never.
Even
have
now,
you ever?
in roles, never have I ever. I think he's got great hair.
Oh,
and that's,
you do.
I think, the best thing he's got going for him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. He does have excellent hair. It's uncanny. Okay, so, God, we have just done it again. All right, so, poor Rory, when he gets gripped up, that one I felt the worst for, because he really has so many hashtags all over him, and he just looks like a fucking lunatic.
Still in the shorts and stripy shirt.
Bless him. What a precious boy.
River gets a costume change, but these two are running around in the same clothes they've been wearing.
What the fuck has River been doing? I really want to know.
River things.
I mean,
she probably changed into that dress before the TARDIS dropped her off in that building.
Oh my God. I could see because there's, this sort of trope that, like, if you just are dressed right and look confident, you can get in anywhere. Mm-hmm. And I could see her being like, I'm going to put myself in a really hot evening gown. And I'm just going to walk into wherever and nobody's going to say a goddamn word to me. Because I could see that being true.
Also, when you have Alex Kingston, any opportunity to put her in a gorgeous dress, you should. Mm-hmm. Because she looks incredible.
She do.
But she looks incredible in everything they ever put her in.
That's true. Yeah, she's ridiculous. So, we have everybody, the whole thing with the doctor being put in a perfect prison and nobody can hear anything and da-da-da-da-da. And then reveal Canton is on their side and this was all a plan. Amy and Rory come out of their body bags and they are very indignant of the fact that they were not given air holes. I enjoy Canton's response that he has never gotten any complaints before. And then it turns out that there is a door into the TARDIS from...
The TARDIS is in there.
Oh, it's already invisible. In there. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's cloaked.
And they all run inside. It's pretty fun because later when Canton comes out, his men are like, you have been in there for literally days. And he's like, I haven't, but sure. And the doctor just like is in really rare form as he directs the TARDIS in this episode or in this scene with his beard and his gangly limbs and his sort of flailing that he does. He just really is like going hard and I'm fine with that. So they get out of the TARDIS and they are at Cape Canaveral. Surprise. And it's time for us to watch a weird invasion that the doctor... And I say invasion because he breaks into it. Apollo 11?
11, yeah.
And it just... I know that he's like doing the right thing. He's doing a smart thing. But it does feel so rude. This is just such delicate equipment. These poor guys are about to go and do something that like nobody has ever done and are probably really nervous. And I wouldn't blame them at all if after this little fucking shenanigan, they were just like, yeah, we're not riding in that thing now. We don't know who that guy is. We don't know what he was just doing. Everything hinges on all of it working exactly correctly. I don't think so. I'm not risking it, you know? Like, think about that. Remember that camera that was supposed to take photos of something up in space, and somebody was literally like 1/100th of the width of a human hair's fraction off on the way that they like ground the lens for the camera. And so the whole mission wound up being pointless because all the photos came out fuzzy. Do you remember that?
No.
It was tragic. It was one of those things that when you hear about it, all you can think is, oh my God, the poor person who did that. Like, just the fucking, I would never, ever not think about it before I fell asleep at night. That I fucked up a NASA mission by mismeasuring a lens. Like, forget it.
There was an article written about this guy who worked on the Challenger. I can't remember what his position was, but basically he blames himself for the Challenger exploding.
This is what I'm talking about.
He was like 80-something years old when I don't know if it was New York Times or something, did this interview with him. But he was like, I don't know if something that I did, that I didn't do it right, that I didn't bolt something correctly or didn't attach something correctly. It's something but I'll forever think that it was my fault that it exploded, that I killed all those people.
Because of course you would.
Right.
I 100% would also. There is even if somebody felt like they found the exact thing that happened that went wrong and they could tell me that I had nothing to do with it, I would still think, yeah, but I probably did a little. I probably did something, you know? Like,
I worked on it. How do we know that it wasn't just a cascade of, like...
Yeah, a domino effect of, whatever I did leaning into the other things. Totally.
How old were you? Do you remember the Challenger exploding?
No.
I do. It was when I moved back to live with my dad. It was my first day of school.
What year was it in? I'm like...
86.
Oh, okay, so I was really little. Okay. I was 2 years old.
Oh, yeah, then you definitely wouldn't remember. I was in 4th grade. It was my first day at this school. I didn't know anybody. And we couldn't go outside for recess because there was too much snow. Mm-hmm. So all the kids were just fucking bananas in the classroom during recess. And then the teacher came in and she was very serious. And I thought, for sure, the whole class was going to be in trouble because all these boys were being boys and making a mess and being loud. Of course it was the boys. And it was my first day of school and I was going to have to stay after school because of them when I didn't do anything but read a book. And then she brought in a TV set and said, I need you to watch something. It's really terrible, but everybody needs to know that it happened, and then showed us the news footage. And so it's like burned in my brain watching that happen.
Yikes. Yeah, that's like, obviously the camera situation is much less, nobody was hurt by it.
Right.
But nevertheless, it's just that kind of like being the one responsible. So anyway, what I'm saying is, if these dudes found out that some random was in their shit and decided that they were going to call this all off, I think that's fair.
Well, that's probably why they brought in Nixon to make sure that...
the president doesn't know shit about space travel. Get the hell out of here.
None of the presidents have known about space travel, and for them it's just, no, get it done. But when the president walks in... Of course, you're going to be like, okay, so this guy's with you. Okay. And then they just have to double check and make sure that nothing was ruined. I don't know why the doctor was in there to begin with. I guess to put a little camera in so that, because it was all going to be filmed. I don't know why he was in the shuttle.
I think it was to interrupt the transmission.
Maybe that was it, yeah.
But yeah, nevertheless, I do feel like you probably could have interrupted that transmission with just some wibbly wobbly shit. It's fine.
Sure.
But I'm getting ahead of myself, as I do. We've talked about everything in a very roundabout way. So let's see. He must shave because he's like
we don't see him.
Yeah, he's got a smooth, because we kind of cut abruptly when he's walking towards the shuttle? Is it a shuttle?
Yeah.
Spaceship?
Yeah.
We
it's a
cut
space shuttle.
there from that scene into credits, and then when we come back from credits, time has passed, and we're now with Amy and Canton, and it's raining, and it's a whole other situation, and we don't really get any kind of like place setting about what happened in between, who got assigned to do what. It's really confusing.
Before we get to that, there's a whole explanation of the little recorders that he puts in everybody's hands. And there's the hologram of one of the silents. And Canton seeing it and then turning around and forgetting.
It's actually after this.
Is it?
Yeah, we have them showing up at the orphanage with no explanation. And the dreary thing is like really hammered in that this place is super creepy. And then we like backtrack to the inside of the TARDIS and everything that was going on, because like we have him and Amy looking at their hands going all clear, and we as viewers still don't know what that means yet.
That's right, because I thought they were talking about there's no hash marks on them.
Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, and then you find out exactly what this means a little bit later, and it's just such a weird, like, putting it in the palm of your hand. It makes sense, but it does feel like that's just going to bump into stuff and interfere with, like, just you could turn it on by accident, I would really think, pretty easily. There's in the show Travelers, they have something like that, but it's behind their ear. So they just like reach back and tap it and turn it on there. And yeah, it's just a weird spot for it, but it works. And it's supposed to be a way for them to sort of like keep track of when they have seen one of these aliens that they do not remember a moment after they have looked away from them. And it's interesting because they do not remember the aliens, but they remember the concept of the aliens. So when they look at their hands, they remember, once they tap it and they hear the message, they remember what this is referencing. Do you know what I mean?
Do they remember what it's referencing?
I think so, because later on when Amy taps it and it says, I saw them, I think they're all asleep, she really freaks out. And before she even like starts to turn around. So I feel like she knows what that means. I mean, if you don't remember anything about the aliens in concept, these flashing lights on your hands are not even going to mean anything to you.
Yeah.
They're
just don't
like completely about trying to keep track of where the aliens are, if you've seen one. So then you'd just be like, what's this blinking on my hand? That's weird. Which is sort of what happens with Canton until they like really hammer it into his brain.
Yeah, I think you're right. They don't remember what it looks like. Mm-hmm. But hearing their own recording, they remember that there's something.
Right. So this is like set up really, really interesting. I love how this all goes. They're talking about how they've spent the last 3 months trying to find out what they're here for. The like hash mark system writing on their skin was kind of the best that they could do. And, you know, they realize that they're kind of fighting a losing battle here, because if you're trying to discover something about a creature and they have a, you know, system where you just forget anything you see, you're not going to do super well at discovering things about them. And this is when we have this, like, the doctor comes up to Canton. He says something about how, like, as long as you hear something, like, under your bed or breathing. And I was just like, you could just not put that thought in my head. That'd be great. Thank you. Don't do that. And he kind of gets up in Canton's face. And Canton's like, so how do we fight this? And the doctor says, like this. And he turns around and zaps River in the hand? Is that what he does there?
Yeah, because he'd been injecting all of the little nano recorders into their hands, but River, being River, probably wasn't going to let him just do it.
I like
so
that.
So he had to, like,
sneak attack.
Do it by distracting her, too.
So yeah, he explains how all of this works. The moment you see one of the creatures, you activate it. It records what you say. You play it back. The light will flash. If you've left yourself a message, you have to keep checking your hand. And then we get this wonderful moment that is so creepy. He looks at something over Canton's shoulder. And Canton turns back around and adjusts the doctor's bow tie. And all of them, when he adjusts it, are staring at this particular spot and looking very tense. And he notices and says, "What? What are you staring at?" And the doctor says, "Look at your hand." And it's flashing. He says, "Why is it doing that?" So I like this. It's impressing on us that they do remember the concept of it. They don't remember it easily. It doesn't happen right away. They have to have it sort of drilled in a little. So the doctor says, "What does it mean if the light's flashing? What did I just tell you?" And he says, "I haven't," and the doctor interrupts and is just like, "Play it." So again, he doesn't even know about, like, he doesn't remember that he was talked to about this at all. And then you hear him say, "My God, how did it get in here?" And the doctor's voice is saying, "Keep eye contact with the creature. And when I say turn back, and when you do, straighten my bow tie." And then we have Canton turn and he sees one of them and it's on the ship, but it turns out to just be a hologram. This was very well done. I like this a lot. This was like saying, comparing it to Memento. It is very Memento-y of like this thing that doesn't feel like it means anything. Adjusting the bow tie. It's a little weird. And you're kind of like, what? Okay. But you don't attach significance to it. And then when you find out in context what it means, it's so intensely like uncomfortable to suddenly realize how vulnerable you are, that you're doing a thing without even knowing why, So yeah, I thought this was done very well. I do not appreciate that the doctor just like projects a hologram of the thing to make poor Canton almost have a fucking heart attack because he thinks that one of them got on the ship. Dude. And it's interesting that a hologram has the same effect as an actual creature, which I don't think really works, but it's fine for the sake of what they're trying to prove here.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it works later with the image on the television screen too.
Right. True. So.
And there's this explanation here, which will explain why later them, like the entire world basically seeing the image on the screen, why they would then follow that direction. Because the doctor calls it post-hypnotic suggestion. Yeah. So everybody sees the image on the TV screen. It says, "You should kill us on sight."
Yeah.
And that gets stuck in their head in the, like, subliminally. So that when they do see one, they just attack.
Right. Yeah, it's really, I mean, the post-hypnotic suggestion, anytime that we start involving hypnosis in a storyline, I get really, really like, okay. It's fine for this. I'm not actually like, but I do want to register that I really started to squint a little.
Well, I don't think that
once I got what they were doing here a little bit.
I don't think what they do is actually hypnosis or post-hypnotic suggestion. It's more of like a subliminal, you're not going to remember once you're not looking right at me.
Right.
But for the purpose of simplifying what's happening, that's why Rory is like, is it post-hypnotic suggestion? And the doctor's like, sure. We'll go with that.
And I think that's why I was willing to just be like, all right, fine. Because it's not overt hypnosis.
Yeah.
And if you can make somebody forget something so completely, if I'm willing to accept that, there's no reason to not accept hypnosis. Like, really, there's no reason. It's just that one of them is a clearly magical, supernatural thing. And the other is something that's like sort of supposed to be based on something that's real. And I have a little trouble squaring that circle sometimes. But really, like I said, this is not a big deal for me. I want to mention it because this is like something I run into with different things that I don't know what it is, but fucking mystery writers love hypnosis. They love writing storylines where somebody does something because they were hypnotized into doing it. And I just have no fucking patience for that. I can't with it. And it's almost like insulting sometimes because the suggestion by the author will be that like, it only works better on the weak-minded. If you're strong-minded enough, you're never going to fall for it kind of thing. And I'm just like, oh, that's just mean. Have you ever tried hypnosis like as a therapeutic tactic? No. What do they call that? I haven't either. So I have no idea if I am susceptible to it or not. I probably am. I am very suggestible. I'm the kind of person that's like not hungry at all. And then I see a commercial with a burger and a Coke and I'm like, fuck, I really want to go to McDonald's. Like marketing works on me. Like I am the test subject for marketing. You will get to me if you do it right. So I bet if I like underwent hypnosis for things, it would probably work. I bet I'm very easy.
I've just always felt like I would not be able to concentrate on, like my mind would wander too much if I were trying to be hypnotized. I would start like not listening and thinking about something and paying more attention to what I'm thinking about than what they're trying to do to make me relax. So I don't know that it would work, but I've never tried it. I don't know that I want to. I don't want people telling me what to do when I have no control over my own brain.
Oh, listen. That's the like main problem for me. I am a control freak and I'm not interested in that sort of. Yeah. I don't want to wake up
being Peter from Office Space. Like suddenly like,
so chill about everything that it's almost like you just don't care about your life anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. No, I don't think I'm going to do that. Like, in his case, it's like a stupid job with a lot of stupid hoops to jump through, but I don't want that happening in my life. I like controlling my life, and so no.
That's fair.
I'm not for it.
All right, so this fucking orphanage. This is really good stuff. I enjoyed this a great deal because it's hard for me to know. And I actually like this. We're looking for the little girl that's in the astronaut suit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the doctor says we're going to look at children's homes. And then we see them pulling up at the orphanage. And this dude answers the door. Dr. Renfrew. I assume, and I'm not sure, that this is a reference to Renfield.
I wondered that as well.
But this poor fucking sap, it's like he is on the edge of completely mentally breaking because they have just fucked with his head so bad.
Mm-hmm.
he tells them the children are all asleep, and they're like, we'll be very quiet. But it becomes pretty clear that there are no kids here except for that one.
Well, also that he keeps saying that, like, Canton brings up that the orphanage was supposed to close in 1967.
Right.
And the guy's like, yeah, in 1967. And he's like, it's 1969.
Yeah. And it's like, get out, leave now is written on the walls. He has get out written on his wrist.
Mm-hmm.
This is great stuff. It's so alarming. And it's unclear to me if Amy and Canton remember about the aliens while they're here. Do they see get out is written and know that this is probably the result of this guy, like, trying to warn people because aliens are here? Or do they just see that and go, Jesus Christ, what is going on in here? You know?
I think it's the second.
I think so too. And that's so much worse. Like, it's bad enough to kind of get that it's the aliens. Even if you get that, you know how vulnerable you are despite knowing about them. Like, knowing about them doesn't really help that much. And you also can't help this poor fucker, you know? Like, even if you know there's not much that you can do to assist him in remembering, and is helping him remember going to be helpful in any way at all anyway? But not knowing anything. Oh, what would you imagine is going on here? And like the fucking lightning flashing and everything. When he says it's 1969 and this guy is like, why are you saying that? Of course it isn't. And then all of a sudden you see this like dawning, I don't even want to say comprehension. It's like, it's all of a sudden he believes him, as if there's a flicker of his like correct mind in there that comes forward, but then gets like smashed back down to the background again as soon as he like runs into one of these things.
Yep.
And Amy, meanwhile, goes off on her own while Canton handles this guy to try and see if the kid is in one of these rooms. And she's walking through like a total horror movie set here. There's painted on the wall, "Leave me alone." There's all of these like abandoned like hospital beds sort of happening. Amy is looking around and says, I think I found where they took her from, because it looks like those things were here. So I guess she does remember?
I don't know that she remembers exactly what those things are. Just that there's a thing, there's something that took this little girl.
Okay. So yeah, she says, but the whole place is deserted and there's just one guy here and I think he's lost it. And the doctor tells her, find out what you can. Don't hang around. I've got to go. And we find out where he is in that moment. Meanwhile, she turns around and the door slams shut, apparently by itself, which I did not appreciate at all. I don't know who's meant to have closed that. Was it an alien?
Yeah.
Why are they closing her in? What are they accomplishing there?
I don't know. Alien stuff.
Yeah, you know. So she goes over to the door. She tries to like move the what do you call it? She tries to turn the doorknob. It's locked. And then she notices that her hand is blinking. So she presses it and she hears herself saying, I can see them, but I think they're asleep. Get out. Just get out. And rather than getting out, because she can't, because she's locked in, she turns around and finally sees them hanging from the ceiling. And I love when she goes up to the window and tries to yank the window open. She sees all of a sudden that she has all of these hash marks on her hands. And in the reflection, she sees that she's even drawn them on her face. Mm-hmm. Which, why would you do that? There's still a great deal of room on her hands. A lot.
Dramatic effect.
But it is a pretty effective way of like showing us that she has lost time, you know, just like how much has happened in moments that we didn't get to see. So yeah, this is when she slowly turns around and she sees them like hanging from the ceiling like bats. Yeah. And they even make a noise that's a little bat-like. And it is real freaky. I hate how like wet their heads look. Gross. So yeah, she's looking at him and she like kicks a garbage can and wakes one of them up. And she thinks that she hasn't. She thinks maybe she got away, but it looks at her and then drops to the floor and follows her. Meanwhile, of course, she like is about to leave herself a message on her hand that she is seeing so many of them, but one of them opens the door very suddenly and distracts her so she doesn't leave herself a message, which I thought was pretty effective because like it would be very easy to be like, well, why, what the fuck? Why wouldn't she? But she's desperately trying to get out and all of a sudden it opens. That's a very effective distraction. Like I can 100% understand why she suddenly was like, oh, okay, cool. And like didn't do the thing. So then we have the scene where Nixon gets the doctor out of hot water with the astronauts. I feel like we can mostly skip that. We talked about enough, except for the part where poor Rory breaks a model.
Breaks the model.
Which, listen, his acting in that moment is like panic and then saying America salutes you in a British accent, making the British salute. It's just so good. Everything with Rory is so good always. I love him so much.
He's great.
The British salute, and one of them is like, both of the guys are like, what is going on here? Like, they could be forgiven if they thought that was like a Nixon impersonator. And this was all a big fucking scam, you know? Because it is like almost a scam. Very nearly. So meanwhile, Canton's talking to this poor guy whose brain is just destroyed. And he asks the guy what you've been doing this whole time. And he says, oh, the child, she must be cared for. That's what they said. It's very important. And he says, that's what who said. And then we cut to Amy, who is still exploring these hallways and trying to find, and she comes across a bedroom that has a light on, that has a bed that's clearly being used. And as she's walking past, there's like a window in the door. And a full-grown woman with lipstick on and like an eye patch looks out the window at her. And Amy says, hello, who are you? And this woman turns to the side and says, no, I think she's just dreaming, and closes the window. And Amy's like, okay. And she like expects this door to be locked, but she turns the handle and it's like wide open. And when she goes through it, there is no window in that door. There's nothing there. Mm-hmm. And there is nobody in the room. It is a very Lynchian moment to me.
Yes.
This felt
That's a good way
so
to describe
Lynchy. It was real creepy. So in this room is all of the like sad little accoutrement of raising a child in a place that a child should not be raised. It is all shabby and neglected in a way that's like they did their best, but they're not working with all of the tools they should be. Mm-hmm. And there's a dresser covered in photos, and one of the photos is Amy holding a baby. And we see this little girl has like, you know, there's lots. It's a really interesting, like, collage is the wrong word. Collection, I guess. Because these are all photos taken by what seems to be a caring person involved in this girl's life. These are not like school photos that are posed and, you know, they're not institutional photos of like orphans that they would take for identification purposes. These look like photos that parents would take of their kid growing. And Amy is holding the baby and looks to be about the age that she is and has no idea how this is even possible and is looking at it like, turns around, and here comes the little girl in the spacesuit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I said that I thought that this was Amy's kid in the end of the last episode. Did I? But,
you kind of.
Because like she shoots at the kid and Amy like doubles over in pain immediately, which made me think that something had happened.
Well, she was already doubled over in pain.
It's
before the astronaut came in. But
there's a, like, she screams after she takes that shot. Because they have like that, they play that again at the beginning of this episode, that moment. But, and, you know, again, I am assuming that this all means that this is Amy's kid. That photo looks like a just gave birth photo. You know, she's in like a hospital gown and the whole thing. But as far as like anything else about how the time could be lost and she wouldn't notice, that she wouldn't remember that she was even pregnant, like, I have no idea. And at the end of the episode, this little girl has Time Lord powers. So again, no idea. Maybe this is River's kid. Maybe she got knocked up by the doctor. And this is all looking like Amy's child. But it's actually River's child.
We don't know that... We don't understand any of this. And we don't know if that little girl is the same person that's in the picture with Amy.
Right. There's an assumption that we are making and that Amy is making in the moment.
Right. But, we also don't know whether Amy's pregnant, because it's like when the doctor at the end has that scanner on her, it keeps going back and forth.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Like, what does that mean?
Time head. I diagnosed your baby with an unfortunate case of time head. It's cute.
I was afraid that it was going to maybe have an extra head. So I guess that means that they had a little bit of sex on the TARDIS, if she's worried about that. I guess. Or maybe it's just proximity to, if she were pregnant, it like infiltrating somehow.
Yeah, I think it's like she's thinking of it as like being in proximity to like radiation. Where she doesn't know. She just says, I've been traveling with you this whole time. What kind of effect could that have? So, yeah.
I mean, it's not a horrible question.
No, I mean, apparently, if we are to believe that this is that kid and this is all, you know, what's going on, that's a valid thing to be asking.
Yeah, but even if all of this stuff with this little girl aside, Amy being a human, being pregnant on the TARDIS, and we don't know what runs the TARDIS. What is this energy that runs the TARDIS? It's not an invalid question to be like, I don't know what that would do. And that's why I didn't talk to Rory about it. Because what if it, like, mutates this zygote? It's a valid question to be, you know, concerned about.
Yes, definitely.
If she were a Time Lord, she probably wouldn't care about her fetus being exposed to whatever energy the TARDIS radiates.
Because I assume they, like, are built for that. I mean, I assume again.
I assume that.
Who knows? But yeah, so this scene with the kid in the suit, I just can't help but laugh every time we have this child in this suit, because the child should not be this tall because they are a child.
Well, I think we get a semi-answer to how she's able to move.
We do, and like that's fine. But my instinct when I see it is to assume that there are multiple children sitting on one another's shoulders inside the suit. So I can't not laugh. Like, still, it's just. I just kept being like, "There's more than one of them." Clearly.
Just one child in each leg, and she's balancing on their shoulders with her feet.
It's like the gnome in Gravity Falls that pretends to be a person, but it's like 6 gnomes on top of one another. If any of you have not seen Gravity Falls, fix that because it's great. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, we do find out later, and like, not only is this kid able to control it, but like the suit seems to fix itself as well, which is pretty wild. Mm-hmm. I like that. What a weird thing, that it's self-repairing. And why does she need it? Is the other thing. I think that River says that you don't need to eat if you have it. Mm-hmm. That you can just like process the nutrients you need from the air and sunlight.
Because the aliens have modified it.
Modified the suit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know exactly what they were using her for. If she is the same astronaut that shot the doctor, I don't know how that happens based on what we see in this episode. Mm-hmm. So they might have undone that.
I feel like...
And if she's not the same astronaut, then I don't know why they needed to have her in a suit.
Right.
But I do not have answers to those questions based on this episode.
Well, I guess we'll...
Or maybe at all. I haven't held on to a lot of the information from this season. I'm not done rewatching it, but...
Oh, yeah, because like you were thinking, maybe he's gay about Canton at the end of the last episode, but we get confirmation of that.
Yeah,
so...
I couldn't... And that's just me, like, for whatever reason, not holding on to that information. I've watched these episodes not that long ago, but I just couldn't remember that detail.
Gotcha. All right, so we have taken so long, but I feel like we've talked about so much nevertheless. We have Canton shooting the alien when it comes into the room to try and bully this poor man who's just at the edge here and about to just break completely. And he can hear Amy screaming and runs out there, is about to shoot the door in order to let her out. But the doctor swoops in and they go into that room. And as they do, the camera pans over and we see a little girl hiding around the corner, looking very, very panicked. And the suit is abandoned. And Amy is nowhere to be found. But her little recorder is on the floor and has somehow been taken out of her hand. And they can hear what she's saying at the moment.
Yep.
Which I don't understand how that works. If it's like a recorder, how does it play in real time?
Because.
Okay.
There's no explanation for it. It doesn't make sense because it's supposed to record. I also don't know how it decides when it stops recording. Like when they're pressing it on to record when they're looking at the alien. When they turn away and have now forgotten, why doesn't that thing continue recording?
I don't know.
They don't explain that either. So, sure, Amy's little thing is still biometrically connected to her, and now we're hearing a live feed of her, like, panic.
Right. Yeah, it's just like, this was probably the one thing that I continually was like, I don't really understand how this is supposed to work. There's a lot of stuff that, like, I feel like this doesn't really work, but I'll let it go. And this was one that I kept trying to be like, they don't even really try and explain it. You know, they aren't worried about whether it makes sense at all. But
I also don't love that they turn Amy into a damsel here.
Yeah.
Having a recording of her constantly crying feels unlike Amy to me.
I can see that.
So it really bothers me that, like, yeah, getting captured is one thing. It happens a lot to the companions. But to have her captured and sobbing the whole time instead of fighting back just didn't feel very Amy to me.
Yeah. Agreed. And it's kind of the second time that we've got aliens that are, like, about to, like, experiment on her.
I don't know what their plan was with her.
I don't love that. Like,
yeah.
It just feels like they're feeling free to, like, you know, violate her physically in a way that they don't do with the other characters in the same way.
Yeah,
but
and
I might
even
be reading into that too much, I admit.
Even like past companions, Rose got captured a few times, but it was usually because she ran off and got curious instead of, like, stay put, like the doctor would tell her.
Right.
She would go off and you know, investigate anyway. Martha didn't really get captured.
No, she got
much.
sent off on her own missions all alone.
Yeah. Yeah. And Donna, I don't think ever got captured. She had a couple of her own.
Right.
But she was usually in contact with the doctor while that was happening. So they never really damseled Rose too much, but they seem to damsel Amy a bit.
I feel like they keep doing this in order to, like, prove something about Rory that I'm not really getting. Like, it feels like when they do this, it's about Rory and not about her.
Well, that would be consistent with Moffat.
Yeah. So anyway, she has disappeared. Rory, like, makes this whole speech later about how she will know that I'm coming for her, but then he hears her yelling, like, "Doctor, are you out there?" And seems to be crushed pretty terribly. The alien that, like, says, "Oh, we don't need weapons, we've got control of you," has been shot and is clearly actually suffering from this wound. And it's kind of amusing because they do try and get him medical attention later, but the person working on him cannot remember what he is or who he is or what he's doing there or anything, which is very funny to me. I liked that. And when the doctor approaches the one that's been shot, this is when he says, "We are the silence." And the doctor suddenly recognizes what it is that he is dealing with here. And it's a pretty good moment. I liked it. So, jumping ahead a bit. The Canton gets, like, essentially a confession out of the one after he is failing to get a nurse to work on the little guy. Big guy? It's a big guy.
Yeah. And he records him with the phone, and he is like, "This is a video phone." I don't know what that means, but they say it is.
Right. I enjoy that, like, he is doing his best. That Canton's like, "I don't know what this is. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to do with it." Probably. I bet the doctor did not let him in on his entire plan. But,
he did manage to he used his FBI skills, which probably includes interrogation, to get this alien to confess its plan.
Right.
But really what they needed him to say was exactly what he said, is, "We have been here since the beginning, and you should kill us on sight.
Right.
But they get to believe that and yet know that it can't happen because we know you should kill us when you see us, but then you look away and you forget all about us. Mm-hmm. The perfect villain.
Yeah, and so that like winds up being what they use as a sort of a
subliminal message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And him saying like you should kill us on sight is exactly what they need. It doesn't feel like something somebody would really say, like even these things, but they need that for this to work, and that's fine. And I think it's pretty fun when the doctor is able to like rub that in their face a little bit later on. It's like, I think the word you're looking for is oops, which I actually found pretty amusing. So we talked about Rory, I feel like enough. Mm-hmm. I don't know what they are about to do with Amy, but they're trying to get her to go to sleep, and the doctor busts in here, tells them all about how they think they have it all under control, but guess what? And then we see the transmission and the order in there.
Before we get to that, there's just a little line that might have gone right over your head.
Okay.
The doctor comes in, sees their lair, basically, and says, "It's very Aikman Road. I saw one of these once before. It was abandoned. Wonder how that happened." This is what was in Craig's house.
Who's Craig?
The lodger, James Corden.
Oh.
It was the same thing. And what you kind of noticed, but I couldn't like draw you to talk about without spoiling future events, is there was one of these dead on the floor.
Oh, one of these like creatures?
Yes, but we didn't see its head, but we could see its hand.
I did not notice its hand, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
And the first probably 3 times I watched that episode, I did not notice either. But this last time that I watched right before we recorded, I knew what was coming up here. Like I'd seen it much closer together, and so I actually looked. But I couldn't draw your attention to it because I would have to explain what you're looking at.
Right, right.
So it was one of those moments where I'm like, I'm going to see how much you saw. And if you had questions, I would answer what I could.
Gotcha.
But it's the same sort of ship console setup.
Okay. Well, so these things are fucking all over the place, like they said.
Yeah.
Poor Craig.
He's okay now.
Yeah, he's fine now, but, I just don't like the idea that maybe, like, his brain's been fucked with more than it even had been. I don't care for it. That's all I'm saying. Interesting. That's fun.
So then they play the transmission. The moon landing.
Right. I'm trying to see where we jump to right after that. Oh, right. Amy yelling at Rory to just get his stupid face out of here. And I just want to register again that I know that in the end it turns out that Amy is talking about Rory and that she loves him and that, I stand by the fact that she does not deserve him because nobody deserves him because he is just the sweetest sweetie pie. And he thinks that she's going to confess that she loves the doctor and not him. And that does not at all even influence whether or not he's interested in saving her. It is so not about him. It's just the fact that he loves her and he's going to save her, of course. Like, there's no moment of just like, well, if I can't have you, no one can. It's just, you're going to do what you're going to do. And if that means that you don't love me, then I guess I'm just going to have to cope with that. Like a fucking adult grown-up person.
Yeah.
But I thought that they might fuck with it and may have him be like, but you love him anyway, so whatever. And I was like, oh, please don't, please don't, please don't. And they don't. And I was so glad.
Yeah.
So yeah, when she says, get your stupid face out of here, he like stops and stares at her for a second. And time's really a wasting. All of these aliens who can like vaporize people have not done that, which that's the one sort of hole in this, is that they really do have a means of like defending themselves. The one tells Canton, we have no need of weapons. And I'm like, yeah, because you're saying we don't have need of weapons because our will is yours. But that doesn't, you do have a weapon. You're acting like you don't have any way to defend yourselves at all because you don't need one. But that's not true. You can turn a person into flecks of dust. That's pretty fucking extreme. There's not even a body to deal with afterward, So.
Well, we really needed to have River's, like, hero moment.
And I'm fine with it. It's just weird that it takes this long for them to attempt to fight back when they have the means of doing that. And like, I really do love when she's got her back up against the doctor and they're like flirting with each other and he's talking about how he shouldn't like it, but he does. And she says something like, thank you, and sort of rubs against him. And he's like, oh, stop it. Make me. And maybe I will. Oh my God. You two, stop it.
Well, that's what Amy says too.
I loved it.
Stop your flirting.
So later on, she kisses the doctor. And he has never kissed her before. And is very flipped out is the wrong word. He's just caught really off guard.
He does not know what to do with his hands.
Oh my God, he really doesn't.
Should I touch her? Should I not?
Like,
she's got all that hair, which you said you liked, so grab it.
It's so hard to like, and she has not figured out that they haven't kissed yet, which surprised me. Because the fact that he's walking away, I thought was her clue. But she's just not really trying to figure this out necessarily even. I think that she might mentally have like come to the conclusion of where they are in their relationship already. And she's like sort of, it's the sort of thing that happens when you like come up with a theory on a thing and anything that doesn't fit within that theory, you just sort of disregard.
Well, keep in mind, they compared their diaries, the 200 years later version of him. But when they meet up with him again, after the 1100-year-old one was shot, they didn't have time to sync up their diaries and see where they're at for him. Mm-hmm. So she's kind of having to guess.
Gotcha.
Based on like, what have we gone, where might we be for him? And realizing that this was the first time he kissed her.
I'm watching it right now, and the way he's moving is so hilarious. I just loved... I wonder how many takes they did and how many types of weird he was before they decided to go with this take. You know?
I'd like to know that as well, because I'm guessing that Matt Smith had lots of variations of how weird he could be in that moment.
And when he pulls away, he just says, okay, right, interesting. Which is not the response you want after you kiss a person. And she says, you're acting like we've never done that before. And he says, we haven't. And she's like, what? And you can see that despite him saying it was very nice, it was good, it doesn't ease the fact for her.
Yeah.
That this is just totally unfamiliar for him. And he just says, it was unexpected. There's a first time for everything. And gets into the TARDIS. And she says, and a last time. So I guess she thinks this is going to be the last kiss they ever have. But I don't think that's necessarily true, is it? There's
I don't know.
still time for them to, like, go on another hijinks-filled adventure. There's a time for a hijink or two. If they... I don't know. She's just leaping to some conclusions here. Don't despair! Not yet! That's all. That's what I'm saying. What?
It would be... I feel like it would be really tricky when he's meeting her on a linear timeline for him. And, like she said, they're back to front. Mm-hmm. So she knows, like, there's all these times he hasn't experienced them yet. She already has. Mm-hmm. So for her, it could be, maybe they've discussed earlier in her timeline, but later in his, when the first time he kissed her was. And she's realizing that now, like, oh shit. If this is the first time, and I know... I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Because she doesn't know her future.
Do you think that the time traveler's wife got their idea from this storyline?
I think the book was written before this.
I wonder if they got that idea from this storyline then. Them being the writers got this storyline from Time Traveler's Wife. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe they, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not saying like that's, Garrett. I'm just, there are enough similarities about like not matching up that, make a lot of sense.
I was just thinking about that earlier when we first started talking about this kiss, trying to think back to what happened in that book when there was a moment where Claire knew that like this is the first time I've kissed him. Mm-hmm. Or he knew that it was the first time she'd kissed him or something. But, like, that was covered in that book, too. So, yeah. That's a good book, guys. Read it.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird, wild ride.
Okay, Johnny Carson. What the hell just happened?
So, yeah, he just gets on the TARDIS, and she's, like, super sad. And it's very, like, heartbreaking. And I didn't like it after her moment of triumph this episode. I just wanted her to be able to, like, ride off with that,
Yeah.
So then we have Amy talking to the doctor about like not being able to remember everything. Again, Amy's fucking hair is just so flawless. It makes me so angry. I am angry about it. This season, whoever's doing their hair just has taken it to another level with her. I can just imagine being set on like a project where you get an actress that has hair like this to work with and how excited you must be, as somebody who does hair and makeup. It's just like, oh boy, I get to play. But yeah, she doesn't remember about the photo. Like she does. She's saying, I can't remember everything. And we see the photo, which seems to like flash through her mind, but it doesn't seem like she either really understands the memory or wants to talk about it with the doctor. It could be one of the two. It could be both. I don't know. But she doesn't mention it to him either way. And then they talk about, why she didn't tell Rory, and he overhears the whole thing. And I love the moment where you see Rory hearing her say, well, I traveled with you in this TARDIS for so long. All that time. If I was pregnant for someone, that wouldn't it have had an effect? I don't want to tell Rory his baby might have like 3 heads or a time head or something. And you see Rory look like he had been about to vomit because he thought that she was talking about being pregnant with the doctor's baby, and the like sheer relief of realizing that's not what she meant. Rory, this is why you don't listen in on other people's conversations. Did Three's Company teach you nothing? Dude, don't do it. You are never going to hear some shit that makes sense to you or like that will have the context you need. But thankfully, she figures out that he is listening and just suddenly says, "Oi, stupid face." Oh, Rory. He's so precious.
She
The way he slowly
stop
walks
calling him
in.
stupid face.
Listen, of all of her sins, that's the least to me. I am totally
rude.
agree with you. It's rude and I don't like it. But there's like... I'm trying to think of the way that Owen and I talk to each other. And he frequently references me as you fucking maniac. It's a thing that he says to me a lot. I'll say something or do something and I'll be like, what was that, you fucking maniac? That's like a real refrain that you will hear in our household quite a lot.
Well, don't you call him a jag?
Oh, I call him a jag a lot. Also a dink. You dink. I called him Owen the other day and he was like, don't call me my name. Oh, it's weird.
Jason doesn't like it when I call him his name either.
He did not. He immediately stopped and looked at me like, what the fuck? I was like, it's your name. What do you want?
One time I was like, okay, Jason. He goes, okay, Jamie.
I just spat all over my computer. Ew. I expected him to, like, for you to say that he was like, okay, weirdo, but he just said your name back to you, which is even funnier.
Like it's like wrong.
Like it's an insult. Using your name is just it's the meanest thing he could think of in that moment.
Like when you're a kid and you're like, you know, my mom's name is Lori, and if she ever made me, I'd be like, okay, Lori, and she'd be like, that's not my name. I'm like, it is your name. She's like, not to you. That's what it felt like.
That's funny. I never called my parents by their names.
I did it a couple times. My mom really hated it, which is why I kept doing it.
Yeah, I think I would have been like kicked out if I ever tried that. They did not play. So let's see. Oh, right. The doctor says, anyone in the mood for adventures? Because I am. You only live once. And they try and be cool and smile at him. And they're keeping their secret and being a little bit weird. And he can sense that they're being a little bit weird. But he's ignoring it because he has his own secret that's being a little bit weird. Where he's scanning Amelia Pond's body. Pregnancy. Positive. Negative. Positive. Negative. Positive. Negative. Blah, 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 blah. And he just does not know what to think of that. And then we cut to this little girl in an alley telling this poor homeless man who just is trying to find some shit to sell and make it into tomorrow that she's dying, but it's no big deal. I can fix it just like this. And then immediately bursts into the yellow light of a regenerating Time Lord. Mm-hmm. I felt so bad for this guy. He did not need this today. You know, like, and he probably, like, a lot of people who live on the street have mental illness and they just don't have any treatment options. And I could see, like, this shit really happened. And this poor sap is going to try and tell somebody, or maybe he just won't. Maybe he's learned never to try and tell anybody anything. And he won't say anything. But, you know, I could see him thinking that this is, like, his brain fucking with him, that it's not real. And I feel bad for this poor guy. Nobody needed this. It's easy, really. See? And she begins to glow. He runs away, which seems fair. I would assume, were I him, that this was like some radioactive child and that I don't want to be anywhere near this. And she like does that like arms out thing as the light sort of explodes out of her arms and head. And I should point out that we do not get an explanation on the full-grown woman with the eye patch looking out the window.
Nope.
I would love it if it turned out that was her as a grown-up somehow, and that she is a Time Lord with an eye patch who is a woman. But I'm going to guess that's not what happened. I believe because of the hullabaloo over having a female doctor later.
Well, there have been female Time Lords. We saw some of them when T-Daltz was on, and there were all
I guess
those
that's
Time
true.
Lords.
So it's not like everybody wasn't mad about there being a female Time Lord. They were mad about the Doctor regenerating as a woman.
Yes.
That makes sense. It doesn't make, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then we like almost immediately cut into there being a bunch of pirates pointing a pistol at the Doctor, and then I pressed stop.
You're not supposed to see that.
I can't help it. Amazon doesn't warn you.
Hey, there's going to be pirates in the next episode.
They just like, all of a sudden, it just cuts from this girl like regenerating, and then immediately, yo ho ho. And I was like,
Doesn't
come on.
it say next time?
It says next time for literally a fraction of a second. It's not even a full like 3 seconds. It's like next time. And then the sound for next time, I think, even begins before the fucking graphic goes away. Disgusted. So yeah, there's pirates next time, which I'm low-key looking forward to. But
yes,
there's this little girl wandering around out here that's like regenerating the street, and I really hope that she's able to get her suit back, because I don't know what she's eating. She's going to need some specific stuff that the Doctor ate when he was, you know.
How's she going to figure out what she likes?
I would
with this human food.
What a weird, yeah.
I mean, the Doctor was eating fish fingers and custard, although that was regenerated, but she's regenerated, so
yeah, exactly.
She's gonna like need some weird shit to fuel her.
I'm just thinking about like her subjecting somebody to what poor little Amy went through, giving him every piece of food in the house and him liking nothing. But
was it the bacon that he just threw out the door?
Something like that. He was rude. I was like, sir, I'm sure she would have eaten it. I don't care how full I am, if I've eaten already or not. If there's like bacon and somebody's like, no, I don't want this, I'll eat it. As long as it's good bacon. Nothing worse than bad bacon. All that potential wasted. So yeah, that's the end of the episode. Is there anything you wanted to talk about before, like about this episode? Is there any trivia?
No.
Okay. Do you have an announcement that you want to share with everybody?
I don't know if any of our Doctor Who listeners have listened to the show that Krista and I did on The Punisher, which stretched out 13 episodes over 2 years. But
you really get to see them grow, though, guys.
Yeah. We've wrapped that up. The last episode that we recorded has not been posted yet, but in the meantime, Krista bravely sent out a tweet where she tagged a few of the actors, and one of the actors has agreed to be interviewed. I'll save the suspense that it's not Ben Barnes, because I don't want that. I can't be trusted. It's Michael Nathanson, who played Sam Stein, who was Madani's partner. He's in like 8 episodes of the first season. He's really great. And we are interviewing him tomorrow. So once that interview is done, Krista will be in charge of editing. And it'll be up eventually. And it'll be our official last episode of The Punisher, unless we can manage to get some of the other actors to be interviewed.
Yay! Yeah, that's pretty dope. So I hope that if any of you guys are interested in The Punisher, that you will support our coverage of it. And that you will also, you know, if you get the chance, tweet about the fact that they did this interview and maybe get some others interested. I don't know, tag people, be like, hey, so-and-so was just on an interview. Would you ever do that? Just,
maybe we can get John Bernthal, and I can be like, hey, good job leaving The Walking Dead. That was the best move.
That was a very smart move, sir.
Yeah.
John Bernthal is one of those that's like, I've got like that guilty crush on, where you kind of know that somebody is like, is likely a fine person, but they are typecast as a real like toxic masculinity douchebag so much that you feel as if you are not allowed to like them. And he, I think, is actually a pretty good dude.
I've heard he's lovely.
But everything that he's been in, other than The Punisher, and The Punisher even still, like, he's a better person than he is in a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like they did the best they could with letting him be an asshole the way that he wanted to be in Walking Dead. Kind of.
Well, as it turns out, in Walking Dead, Shane was right all along.
He
so
was, though. And I said that, too. Oh, guys, my coverage of Walking Dead was so messy. So messy. But yeah, I was kind of on his side a few times, and I like felt really bad about it at the time, but I was like, yo, but this is the world you live in now. And like, yeah, it's true. Anyway, I think that's really awesome. And thank you, Krista, for, taking a gamble. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So eventually, what I'm saying is maybe we'll interview David Tennant. I don't know. It's in our future, but...
Can I be trusted?
Guys,
to do
did you hear the panic in Jamie's laugh? Did you hear her almost say, please no, even though she knows that's what she wants? I did. I heard her almost start crying.
I did so well when I met him for those 25 seconds that I got to stand by him, but I think I'd be okay with David Tennant. I think I would.
He's so really lovely.
Yeah, it's really just Ben Barnes that I don't think I can be trusted.
I don't know about me and David Tennant, because I would just be like, I mean, you played a real asshole. You'd be like, what? I just, I just see myself just being like, I mean, you were a lot of fun. You were a dick. You definitely are my favorite. And him being like, thanks. Anyway.
I feel like now is the time if we really want to reach out and try to get people to be interviewed, because everyone's just fucking sitting at home.
That's true. I mean, shoot your shot, as they say.
That's right.
You know who I want? I want Donna. I bet we could get Donna. Do you think we could?
I'm trying to think where she is on social media. Let me look into it. All we can do is ask. I would love to talk to Catherine Tate.
Oh my God, I would die.
That would be amazing.
See, now I'm having the reaction you had, that I'm just suddenly like, no, never mind, never mind, never mind, never mind. It's fine. All right. So, in my announcements, I'll be saying hi to new patrons next week. This week, I want to, let all of you know that I'm going to be shifting my Spoil Me schedule. Anybody who listens to the Spoil Me episodes and who likes to attend those live, because I do all of my Spoil Me's as a live crowdcast, record that, and then that's released as its own podcast. But if you like attending them, I'm going to be changing my schedule. I had to shift everything to evenings because with the virus, people are working from home, and so my internet was just not up to it. And I was really frustrated initially having to move everything. And it has turned out to be amazing. And I function way better recording them later on in the day. So I've decided to make this a permanent change. But it won't be permanent to the times that I have been doing. Currently, things have been shifted to 6 o'clock, 7:30, and 9 o'clock. But I'm going to be moving things to 4 o'clock, 5:30, and 7 o'clock. So if you are somebody who lives abroad, apologies if this makes it so that you are not going to be able to attend anymore. I made it early enough that I think some people, it would still be possible. But really the main thing is that I have a bad facial twitch that I have been looking for treatment for. I'm finally seeing a neurologist and getting Botox injections from the neurologist. But they have stressed to me that, pun intended, that this is just a treatment of a symptom. And in order to help with this twitch, I really need to reevaluate the way that I handle stress and my whole lifestyle, because this can't, I'll just have to get injections for the rest of my life if I decide to keep going with this. And there could be a point where the whole half of my face just is in spasm. It's on its way there. My mouth is already being affected. When I was getting the injections for the first time today, the doctor commented to her assistant that, my God, a lot of spasming. It's just nonstop. And I was like, yes, welcome. So realizing now that this works so much better for me. I just decided that this would be a very big step towards making my life easier. And I also have, many of you probably have noticed, I am not on Facebook very much anymore. And that was really the first step that I had taken on trying to reduce stress, is staying off of Facebook. And I don't think I realized just how good it was for me until every time I step back onto it, and how my fucking blood pressure just spikes like immediately. I apologize if people are leaving me messages on my personal Facebook. If you're leaving them for the show, I might be slow in getting back to you, but I do see those. If you're sending me Facebook messages on Facebook to my personal account, I cannot tell you how unlikely it is that I am going to be getting back to you anytime soon. I am overwhelmed. The number of messages I have in my inbox right now is insane. And I just do not want to be on that platform at all. And messaging from my phone is people are contacting me for show information. So I need to get them links. I need to send them Dropbox files. I try to respond on the desktop. So what I'm saying is, if you have a message for me that is really crucial that I get back to you, hit me up on unspoiledpodcast@gmail.com. Hit me back on the Facebook page for the show. Or if you are a patron and you're in the Mighty Network, hit me back on there. That I can immediately reply to. It's no problem. But Facebook has just become a complete minefield for me. And I am essentially going to be abandoning that account for the foreseeable future, except for what I need to keep going for the sake of the show. So that said, I really want to thank everybody who has been super supportive about me changing my schedule up and this sort of thing. Y'all have been so instrumental in me deciding to do this at all, because I'm so conscious of it being inconvenient for some people that I really was loath to change anything. And everyone has been very effusive in letting me know that what is healthy for me is what's most important to them. And it is very reassuring. I didn't realize how much I was worried about that and how much I needed people to say that, but I did. So thank you very much to everybody. And secondly, Miles and I have wrapped on Twilight for now until Midnight Sun comes out, which we will be bouncing back to do. I am going to be starting Mistborn as the unspoiled one next week. He and I are going to record our first episode. So if you are interested in becoming a patron to listen to Mistborn, you can do that at patreon.com/unspoiled. It's going to be starting pretty shortly. Also, we are at 93% on our fundraiser for starting Song of Ice and Fire. So we're inching ever closer. And Rashawn and I are going to be recording on the newest season of Westworld starting June 1st. So that will be coming out in the next few weeks. And by the time we're done with that, that's when the fundraiser will wrap and we will see where we are. So y'all have about 2.5 months until we are, kind of taking a look at where we are and deciding if we have reached the goal and are going to do this or move on to another project.
Please become a patron.
Yeah, guys, become patrons. It's real fun. There's so much going on.
Just really, really need you guys to do a Song of Ice and Fire.
I've said it. I would really like to. And I think it'd be very interesting to see it from Rashawn's perspective.
It'll be so interesting to see her perspective, but also your perspective now.
Oh, God, it'll be very different, yes.
Is going to be very different from what it was before. And with your show knowledge, and her show knowledge too, but I'm just really curious to see how you can separate any feelings you have about the show from the text, because the text is 1,000 times better. Mm-hmm. And it's also just such a great reread. And I just really, really want to hear you guys talking about it.
And reminder, if we reach our goal, that will not be a patrons only show. That'll be a show that's available on iTunes. So if you can't become a patron, that's okay. but you can share info about the show and get other people to become patrons. So if you want us to cover that, promo the show to other people, because I have a lot of folks get in touch with me telling me that like so-and-so recommended your show, or I found you mentioned on Reddit, or I saw you mentioned in a comment on Facebook. And that really matters. I don't know if people realize how many folks might not comment or react to your comment, but they're reading it and they're clicking the link that you left and following that through, you know?
Every time I see a question in like the binge mode group or the watch, basically any of the Ringer podcast groups that I'm a part of, anytime someone is like, I'm looking for something to listen to, give me suggestions for podcasts, I always just say Unspoiled. Every time. I don't know, because I don't follow up with people like, have you listened? But I do keep track of like, how much does this get liked? So it always is getting some kind of response.
Right.
And it's not like the same people that I know are part of the Unspoiled family. I'm constantly seeing new names of people, so I'm hoping that means that they like went over to iTunes and checked it out. Because I usually, when I say Unspoiled, I name a number of the shows that are done, and I try to give a variety. So like, there's something for everyone. Like Harry Potter might not be your thing, but Westworld might be.
The Leftovers might be.
The Leftovers might be, or I don't know.
Twilight.
Doctor Who, Twilight, like Lost. Like there's so many things that have been covered that there's literally going to be something for everyone.
And there's lots of different
Sandman.
hosts, so you might not like a host from one show, but you'd start a different show and you're like, oh, this person's fun, you know?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, like getting the word out there just that Unspoiled exists, I think even if every time you do it, it just brings one person. That's one person who's then probably going to turn around to their friends and be like, you should listen to this.
But then there's people like Owen's aunt who asked me what my show was, and I will never tell her, because there are certain people that you just know are not going to like it, and you don't need to talk about it with them.
That's true.
She only ever let her kids watch Home Improvement growing up because other shows were too violent. Like, yeah, I suspect that...
It's a weird flex, but okay.
Right? Yeah. They didn't have cable. Everything that they watched was like on video. So that their kids could not accidentally stumble on sinful content.
That's outrageous.
You know, whatever. But yeah, she texted me the other day and was like, what's the name of your show again? And I just never responded. Just did not answer her because you don't need to know that. Sorry, lady, but no.
Yeah, I don't, I've mentioned that I do a podcast, but I've never given the name of it to like my work coworkers or, the other managers that I work with, because I need to keep it separate. I'm pretty open on these shows. They don't need to know me that well. I'd rather complete strangers know me better than the people who I have to work with. I need there to be a separation.
That is completely fair. Yeah, I am fine with no separation unless it's Owen's family, and that's a whole other story. So,
yeah,
that's different.
Jason's told people to listen to our show before too, and he doesn't even listen. But he'll like send me a text and be like, "What shows has Unspoiled covered?" And I'll give him a little list, and then he's like, "Okay, there's someone that was asking."
Yeah, but having a partner listen can be weird too. Like Owen, when we first started dating, we got into like a little bit of a shitty argument about something, and I mentioned it in my recording for The Wire or something that he was like following, and he like afterwards was like, I really didn't like that you brought that up on the show. And I was like, well, then stop listening, because guess what? I talk about it all, so I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is podcasting is a weird game, y'all. It's really
it is. After you do it for a while, you stop like holding back certain aspects of your life.
Yep.
Which is weird. Because I'm pretty private. and then I'll just talk about something on the air like it's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, glad that my family doesn't listen. And when I talked about that time I did cocaine or whatever.
Whoops.
I didn't. I never did that.
Is there anything else you want to mention before we wrap?
No, I'm good.
All right, guys. Well, thank you all again for listening. Again, patreon.com/unspoiled to become a patron. Facebook.com/unspoiledpod to follow us. Unspoiled Podcast. Wait. At Unspoiled Show on Twitter. I completely forgot my Twitter handle for a second. And Unspoiled Podcast on Instagram. And of course, like I said, unspoiledpodcast@gmail.com if you want to get in touch.
And if you become a patron, come over to Mighty Network.
Yeah, come to the Mighty Network. You'll get a link when you join in the welcome message from me. And do that. We share all kinds of, there's lots of groups in there for different like topics and subjects. And there's also the Discord, which I'm going to be using a little bit more frequently while I play Animal Crossing and chat with folks about it. So
that was fun. We did that the other night.
yeah, it was a good time. So, all right, guys, thank you again. And we will see you next week with some pirates. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.